Folding phones, like this Galaxy Z Fold 7, they are niche products. They are absolutely not for everyone. In fact, most products are not for everyone, but more so than most products, these are not for everyone. And I get comments all the time from people saying, I can't imagine why anyone would spend $1,500, $1,600, $1,800, $2,000 on a smartphone, the phone I already have, can do everything I need it to do. And that is absolutely fair because everything cannot possibly be made with you in mind. Today we're going to be looking at this article on Android Authority, which was written by C. Scott Brown. Now let me preface everything I'm about to say this way. This is not a takedown. This is not an attack. I don't dislike this author. I actually quite like a lot of their work. But I do see in this article, maybe you would say an opportunity to explain from the perspective of a foldable user why I keep buying them, why I enjoy them, what it is about them, because there are some sort of almost generic complaints about foldables in this article, and I think it would just be useful to just sort of answer them. So the article starts off with him basically talking about how he's wanted to love the concept of folding phones from the beginning and that they have tried, and no matter how good they've gotten, and the fact of the matter is the Z Fold 7 is absolutely fantastic. When he tries to use them, it just doesn't click. He doesn't enjoy using them, and he just wants to go back to his slab phone, his Pixel in this case. And he gives a few reasons why that is. He says it's a $2,000 solution in search of a problem. And I think that that's a really interesting way to put it. And I think that the best way that I can kind of approach this is to again underline the fact that all of us don't have the same problem. And this has to be seen through those highly subjective lenses. And I think if there is one thing that he's missing in this article, it's sort of made obvious in this line. Yes, Samsung has made the best foldable ever, but that just brings more fundamental questions into focus. Why should I, or anyone really, buy a foldable phone over a standard folding phone? I hope that in this video, I can answer that question. So he says he went online and he looked for the most commonly espoused reasons that foldable users like myself give for why we are using these phones. And the three reasons he says that come up frequently are productivity, media consumption, and gaming. I'm going to focus mostly on those first two because I am not a mobile gamer. But in those first two, we really have some interesting little tidbits there to go over. So he says, first, let's talk about productivity. Proponents say the larger screen is a game changer for working with spreadsheets, allowing them to see and edit data more easily. Now, I think that that is just on its face, obviously true. If you are looking at a PDA, I've done this several times myself. If I'm reading over a non-disclosure agreement for an embargo or something like that, open up my phone, I've just got more space to read that and to potentially highlight, annotate things there in that NDA. He says others advocate for pairing it with a keyboard to create a pseudo laptop replacement for travel. Well, these are certainly valid points. They don't apply to my personal workflow. That is the big thing. It's about your own personal workflow. Now, I will say, you're keeping the scope of this very, very narrow, okay? That larger screen does make you more productive, but it's not just about spreadsheets. I rarely look at spreadsheets either. But that doesn't mean that large screen is only more productive with spreadsheets. So here's something a lot of you know about me. I am a big weather nerd, and I absolutely love having this large canvas to look at these radars. And while not much is going on right now, this morning, the fact that I have this large screen means I can see more, and then I can actually jump in and grab these cameras that are in stationary places, and I can resize them, and I can kind of tuck them up here in the corner while I'm looking at the velocity of a storm, so forth and so on. This is more productive than a slab phone, and it's not a spreadsheet. Look at photo editing inside Google Photos. Which one of these would you say is going to be more productive? There is a massive difference between the sizes of the two photo previews you're going to be working with. This is a big deal to some of us. There are plenty of applications now that offer a dual panel layout, which allows you to just see more content on the screen at any given time. Again, not a spreadsheet, but a place where the larger screen is going to obviously make you more productive. And something that I'm surprised is never mentioned in this article is split screen multitasking. For me, that's like the biggest productivity boon on these devices. And yes, you can split screen on a slab phone, but you get a little square and then a little square. That is not the case on a foldable. Let's just open up my weather app again. We'll do our little 2-finger swipe over, and then we'll just pull up Wise because it was the first thing I saw there. You have two apps side by side working just like they would be on a normal slab phone, but you have two of them. That is the definition of productivity. I cannot tell you how often I am referencing information on one app while I'm doing things on another app. I'm taking notes or something like that. I'm gathering a list of accessories to talk about for the Z Fold 7 or whatever it may be. I do a lot of work that way on my phone. Now, like I keep saying, this stuff only matters to you if it matters to you. I ran an experiment a while back that some of you probably watched the video on, where I had my wife use the Galaxy Z Fold 6 for a couple of weeks. While she really enjoyed using it, when it was done, I asked her, how often were you using two apps side by side? And her response was, effectively never. She just does not find that to be something that she thinks is useful. We did the same thing way back with the LG V60 and the dual screen case. Again, she ended up just kind of having this other screen there next to it and just never put an app over there. Some people are just not wired that way. And if you're not, that's valid. And I would argue that these phones are probably not made with you in mind. But it's different to say, I don't find these devices to have a use for me in terms of productivity versus they have no usefulness for productivity. These are two completely different statements. One is a statement that is about the state of your being, and the other is a statement about the universe as a whole. It's about everybody, and I would argue that's not true. The reason that I'm making that point so clear is because we have a little bit of back and forth on that. There are places where they say these are certainly valid points, but they don't apply to my personal workflow exactly as that should be sort of conceptualized. But there also seem to be these broader sort of objective proclamations about the device. They haven't given us a compelling why for these devices, or they just can't solve the reason for being. Had this said, for most of us, I would probably be okay with that. For some of us, I would definitely be okay with that. But it does sort of read as though this is a proclamation that these devices simply don't have a reason, when the reality is, for a lot of us, they do have a reason. And that's what I'm trying to explain in this video. So the next one is media consumption. The Fold is often praised as an excellent device for reading ebooks, as its form factor can feel like a real book when open. But for me, that can't compete with my Kindle Paperwhite, and there are definitely advantages of a Kindle Paperwhite. But that's another device that you have to keep on you, and you don't really fit those in your pocket, whereas this is one and the same device that can fold up and go in your pocket and you can forget that it's there. It's not that it's better than a Kindle, it's that it's already in your pocket, and the best reading device you have is the one that's already on you. Watching videos is another popular use case, and I'll admit it's fantastic for YouTube, where you can watch a video up top while scrolling through comments below or scrubbing to specific sections of content. For movies and TV shows, however, the benefit disappears. Due to the screen's squarish aspect ratio, most TV shows have letterboxing or pillar boxing. There's just black bars around the screen, and because of that, he says, a device like the Galaxy S25 Ultra ends up having a larger actual video space being used. He says that defeats the whole purpose of having that big unfolded display, and I think that this, once again, reveals that for this individual, and again, this is no slight against them at all, but for them, I think that this says pretty clearly to me that this is just not the right device for you, because you're not thinking about this. This author is not thinking about this. I don't want to keep saying this like I'm talking directly to them as if they're watching this video, because they may or may not. And if they are watching it, it's probably kind of creepy that I'm talking directly at them. Probably a bit of a strange feeling. This author is not thinking about these devices in the same way that I think those of us that love them do. So really quickly, what I want to do is take a closer look at that video watching experience because I think that there's quite a bit to dig into there. And the first thing I want to do is basically compare the size of these two videos in this orientation. Keep in mind, this is a 16:9 video. If you're dealing with a more cinematic aspect ratio, it can alter things pretty dramatically. But for 16:9, even in this vertical orientation, the video watching area is larger on the Fold 7. And of course, if I were to full screen this and rotate it, we'll actually rotate it this way, it is much, much, much larger. So in 16:9, in terms of 16:9 content, this is a much larger video watching canvas. More cinematic aspect ratios, this actually ends up being the larger canvas. But I just wanted to get that part out of the way. Here's the thing though, when it comes to these devices, I've said this many, many times before, if all you want to do is watch video content, something like this S25 Ultra might be a better choice because it's got a big enough screen that's probably a little bit brighter, it's got better speakers, probably got better battery life, it makes total sense. But the point of these devices, to me, is not just video, it's video and. So to demonstrate this, what we're going to do is we're going to go home over here, and we have our little pop-up view, and we're going to fire up another application like Feedly, and then we're going to replicate the same experience on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And if we are to just fire up an article from this, which I mean, obviously you can kind of see just from this view how big of a difference there already is. You're able to see not just the headline, but also some of the text of the article itself. But if we fire up an article, there's just a huge difference. This is actually defaulting to the desktop site. Let's go to the mobile and you can see a bit of a difference. But heck, maybe being able to use the desktop site is a big part of that advantage for you. You can just see so much more content on the Z Fold 7, and you still have the video. Again, the point is video and, not just the video. To me, this is not strictly a media consumption device. It is a productivity device. It is a multitasking device. Something that I do all the time is fire up Wise, pull up my front door camera, and then continue doing whatever it is I'm doing while waiting for a package to come in. I can still use my phone pretty normally because there's so much screen still left unused that I can just continue doing normal things on this device and almost forget that that is there. And again, that is the point. It's not just video, it's video and. And that's not even to mention the fact that you can just split screen straight up and you end up having basically the same YouTube experience over here that you're having on the S25 Ultra plus an entire second application. And then you've also got the fact that this is its own kickstand. That's something that was mentioned in a recent video by Mr. Mobile himself, kind of talking about that exact same portion of this video. You have a built-in kickstand and at this point a screen that's basically the same size as a normal slab phone. So with all of that sort of out of the way, I think hopefully I've gotten my point across in a way that was polite and non-inflammatory. I do also want to quickly mention and encourage you to go check out the video version of this article because C. Scott Brown has just launched his own YouTube channel and he's already got several videos or a couple of videos up that I think are quite good. He actually does show here exactly what I was talking about, where the aspect ratio, if it's a cinematic aspect ratio, it is actually bigger on the S25 Ultra. So he does a good job of going through this in a video form here, so I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. So guys, feel free to hit that comment section and let me know what your use case is with these foldables. Kind of explain, in again, the kindest, least inflammatory way possible, what people who don't use foldables and the people who foldables don't click for, what are they missing? What clicks for you? What is your use case? I think that could be a pretty fun conversation to be had, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.